Hello and welcome to this West London Sport QPR podcast. I'm Dan Bennett and I'm joined by West London Sport's Ian McCullough and former QPR striker Kevin Gallen. Where do we start? It's 2 wins in 10 now for QPR after Sunday's 3-1 defeat at home to Peterborough. I mean, certainly the worst result of the season, I would say. And I think there's an argument to make there was maybe the worst performance of the season as well. When, you look at that, the second half, obviously the first half wasn't too bad, just almost more a case of missed chances and quite reminiscent almost of the Cardiff game where, they looked in control first half and probably should have put the game away and didn't and ended up, losing it in the space of a few minutes. I mean, Kev, what's going on? What went wrong on Sunday?
Well, I wasn't there, but obviously from what I've seen highlights wise and what I've read and what I've talked to with my friends who were there, it was obviously the second half performance was terrible. You look back at little moments of the games always, and these little moments are not going for QPR at the moment. But if Andre Gray scores that header, we probably go on and win the game. But then I could say that when we were winning games, when it was very tight, that we were getting a little bit of the rub of the green. It's not happening now. Obviously, the performance was poor. It's a difficult one because I think, is it the last 10 games, 2 wins? And if you want to get promoted and get in the playoffs, that's not the way. Obviously, that's not the way to go about it. Team selection, the back three, changing it. I mean, what's happened to Barbe? He's played, 96, 97 games on the spin, and the last 2 games, he's not been playing. And it's not whether I think Barbe is brilliant, but what he does give you is a left footer balance on that back three. And I think, especially as an overall team thing, it's so important when you've got a left footer in that role, when you're playing free at the back, when you're trying to pass it around at the back and get the ball forward with good. And one thing Barbe has got about him, I don't think he's the greatest defender, but I think he's very good on the ball. A left-sided defender, he is by far in the three, the best left-sided defender that we've got and the number one thing, because he's left-footed. So the rearranging of the back three when it was so solid at one stage, where it was Dickie right, Dunn middle, Barbe. You got a new goalkeeper in, so who just sort of hasn't played, and that's a difficult situation. So I feel you've got to go with your best back three, and they've been our best back three for the majority of the season. I think no one could argue with that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's got to be back to basics, and I think I just read something on Twitter from one of your colleagues, Ian, and it made quite sense. And I think you have to go back to the core of what got us there and who you can rely on for the next 8 games of the season. Because at the end of the day, performance-wise and results-wise, is not good enough. And I said there a couple of weeks ago, what worries me more is performance. Because if you keep even the Luton game, I didn't think we played that great, but we won. And you take that when you go in for promotion. But eventually your poor performance catches up on you. And it has. And I think we've got to get back to basics. I would say a good idea to maybe give him a few days off, because we've got the international break. Give him a few days off, come back in on Monday, regroup. Come on, lads, we've still got a chance. With a couple of points off 6?
Yeah, 2 points with 8 games left, I think.
It's just the worrying thing for everyone, every QPR fan, is the performances and the recent results. That sort of says we're not going to do it, but we're only 2 points, and it's easily achieved. It's not easily achievable; it's achievable. But they have to get back to basics.
And obviously the teams around them, I think Nottingham Forest might have 2 games in hand on QPR, maybe just behind them. You've got other teams who are looking good in better form. So that's obviously a worry as well. But I agree with what you said about the defence. I think taking Barbe out has definitely made it a bit more unsettled. I mean, obviously they brought Sanderson in on Sunday, and, he looks like he's got all the tools to be a really good player, but he had a really difficult afternoon. I mean, the first thing he did was he used his pace, got in behind and nicked the ball away, and it's a really good bit of play. And then about 10 seconds after, he passes it straight to Smodics, who probably should have done better and maybe scored from a good position. And it just looks like it's messed something up there. I'm not sure what the thinking was with bringing Sanderson in instead of Barbe, but it definitely doesn't seem to have worked so far. I mean, Ian Warburton said after in his press conference, that they were in control essentially in the first half, and they probably should have, enjoyed it a bit more and looked like the team that we know they're capable of being after they went 1-0 up. But I mean, you look at some of the chances missed, and Peterborough were all over the place in the first, half an hour. They were misplacing passes from defence in midfield. How many times did QPR nick the ball off them in a dangerous area and go on a really dangerous attack? I mean, that should have been out of sight, shouldn't it? First half, really.
Yeah, it should be 3-0 up. I mean, Illy's chair missed a really good chance. Andre Gray's at the post. They're 3-0 up. It's a nice sunny day. Enjoy it. See the game out. Life's good again. But when they concede that goal, it's a poor goal. Sanderson, well, he easily turned. I mean, I've mentioned before about Andre Dizel on here. I don't see him. And the sight of him jogging back for that first goal and just stand there, his hands on his hips on the penalty box, and you go, well, what are you doing? What are you there for? What's your role? Because you don't tackle. You're living off one pass against Cardiff. You set up a goal. I don't see what he offers. And to be honest, I'm not a huge Don Ball fan as a player, but give me 5 Don Balls over 1 Andre Dizel on that performance. They needed someone just to win the ball. That's how we're doing. Win the ball, win the ball. Luke Amos scored a goal while winning the ball. Sam Field was doing a running of 3 men at one stage. You see him coming back, racing 70 yards to make cover tackles, while his midfielders are looking at him going, it was terrible. It was really, really bad. And Sanderson, he was at fault for, you could say, 2 goals against Forest. He comes in, gets sent off stupidly against Blackpool, and he gets the guy who's played 97 odd games in a row, has played for injury. He's been a bit of a leader of men in certain games. He's playing through with big cuts on his head. Never let Rangers down at all this season. He's left out. I don't really understand it. I don't understand what the reasoning is for it.
Ian, and I know this certain things happen in football when you get a player from a Premiership team, and it's sort of you might pay a certain amount of money a week if he plays, but if he don't play, you sort of get a bit of a fine, and it might double. Now, I don't know if that's got anything to do with it, but I'm baffled as well as why you would break up that 3-man defence when, let's be fair, at one stage we were lauding them, saying they were one of the strongest parts of our team.
Yeah, I think Barbe's got to come back in now, hasn't he? I mean, like, before Sanderson got sent off against Blackpool, he looked really good. Like, he was probably QPR's best player for that, first bit. And he looked like he was got a lot of potential as a player. And I still think there's a player there. It just, his passing as well, like on Sunday, it was like every time he got the ball, it was just going forward to no one. He looked like he was like panicked almost every time he got on the ball. It was very strange decision. I mean, go on, Ian.
I understand why he was brought in against Forest. You want to counter the pace they've got up front, and Jimmy Dunn's done nothing wrong, and Rob Dickie, I still maintain, is the best defender they got. So I got that. But you lose the game 3-1, you're at home against the team bottom of the league. You go back to your best team. I didn't have a problem with McCullough starting. I don't really understand why Moses didn't start. He's played well the last 2 games. A Doma off the bench, I kind of like someone to kind of stretch it in the second half. But, they've got 2 weeks off. So resting players and that, you've got 2 weeks off to your next game. Get the win. Play your best team. Get the win under your belt. Now you've got a whole fan base that's a meltdown because, they might miss the playoffs. The manager's now under pressure because of, a dismal defeat. And, is this sports science? Why is he changing things? Is there too much, I don't know, he taken from the sports scientist? You can't play him because he can only play 60 minutes. He can only play 65 minutes. Is that a reason? I mean, it made no sense taking Luke Amos off. He was the best player on the field. And
that's what I was going to ask you about as well, Ian. I mean, he said, after that, he kind of mentioned injury as being careful about injury is a reason for the substitutions. We know he listens to the sports science quite a lot. He often cites that in his interviews. But I mean, the reaction from the second half subs, like you say, particularly from Amos going off, was bad, wasn't it? And we've not really heard that at the stadium at all this season. But given everything of the recent run, and it just seemed to all come to a head when that substitution was made. I mean, what did you make of those changes and the reaction to them as well?
I thought the reaction was fair. I mean, I'm usually quite measured about these things, and I wasn't working Saturday. I was at the game with my kids. Um,
You had to cover their ears.
Well, I left actually 5 minutes before the end because I don't normally do that because they're only little, so I don't need to kind of see vitriol that's going to be coming out at the end. So, but I understand why there was frustration. But I also question the decision to move the game to the Sunday. You know, the atmosphere was flat. You play on a Saturday, you get better crowds on a Saturday. 12:30 on a Sunday.
Sorry, Ian, whose decision was that?
That was the club's.
Yeah, I don't get that.
That was the club's decision because they played Forest on the Wednesday. They wanted the extra day to recover, and Peterborough played on the Wednesday as well, and they were kind of happy to do the same. But why move the game to 12:30 on a Sunday? And it comes back again, and this is a sort of an off the field thing. You look, I was at Forest last week, and the crowd there were unbelievable. You know, at Luton, the crowd were very vociferous. Rangers can be very vociferous. On Saturday games, we've seen it. But behind that goal in the loft end, this family area, a lot of children play football on a Sunday morning. So they're not going to be able to make the games. You've got behind the goal, there's swathes of empty seats. The game against Middlesbrough early in the season on a midweek game. Behind the goal, you've got swathes of empty seats. You've got to pack the way in. The atmosphere is flat. You know, and that comes from this chief executive and his decision not to, you know, allow fans to be behind the goal. It's hurting Rangers. The atmosphere was really flat on Saturday. Rangers shouldn't be losing at home to Peterborough, bottom of the league team and a home game when they're, you know, sitting at 5th or 6th on the table, needing to win. But as soon as Peterborough scored, the atmosphere just died. It became anxious. It's a problem. It's a real problem, I think. And
Sunday fixtures usually are very flat, especially the early and even early games are usually flat. And then you put it with a Sunday, it's going to be even flatter. So,
you know, and it's their decision to do it. Again, sports science dictating, but you lose the game. If you win the game, then you go, fair enough. But, you know, you're giving them an extra day to play the game and then you're leaving players out or taking players off early because you don't want to injure them. So it's kind of how much of sports science is dictating what the manager's doing. Which, I mean, I understand the need for sports science and you know, they were injury free for a lot of last season because of the way they rotated, but this season it doesn't seem to be working in the same way, and the injuries are piling up. I mean, you got, you know, Willock out for the season now, Marshall out for the season, Sam McCullough was out for 3.5, 4 months. Lee Wallace has been out numerous times. Stefan Johansson's got a knock. So
Dykes,
Dykes can play for Scotland though.
Yeah, and I
don't get that. Warburton doesn't want him to go, but apparently he can be called up. So he's like keeping himself fit to play for Scotland.
Well,
you know, QPR pay his wages. If he's not fit to play for QPR, he can't play for Scotland.
Well, that was the message, wasn't it, as well? But
if he plays for Scotland this week, that's a kick in the teeth.
Well, he apparently might, you know, the plan is for him to go up and play in, well, not necessarily play in the game, but to be with Scotland for their second friendly, which is against Wales or Austria, I believe. So he's going to train with QPR in the first half of the international break. And then if he's all right, if he's, you know, if they think he's fit enough, then he's going to go and play with Scotland. But I can definitely see the frustration with that, given he's missed, you know, however many games, if he then goes to play for Scotland, you know, given the current situation.
The only sense I see in it is the fact if he has a week's training, they want to get a game under his belt before the full game.
Exactly.
So maybe that is the rationale behind it.
If the timing genuinely is that, then I get it.
Flip the coin, he goes up and gets injured for Scotland.
Yeah. No, very true.
Would you take that risk?
Yeah, I mean, Ian, you mentioned the performance. The atmosphere was flat after, and I agree. But I think just the performance was flat as well after the 2 goals that, you know, they let in the second half. Like, they just never looked like they were going to come back and get even a point, which you would never have said that earlier in the season. I mean, look at the Barnsley game, another poor team where they were 2-0 down and they, you know, really had a lot of belief, and they came back and they drew the game, and, you know, deservedly it maybe could have got all 3, but that just wasn't the case against Peterborough. You know, the ball was moving side to side slowly, and it just, you know,
I don't generally subscribe to this whole kind of captains, leaders, and passion and what have you. It's all a bit of a misnomer to me, but there didn't seem to be any leaders out there on Sunday. I mean, Barbe is a leader. Barbe does, you know, I think as an improved player, I think a few players that improved more than him in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But who was out there leading? There seemed to be everyone's head was down. There was no, I mean, Johansson's the captain. He's not out there. So who you're looking at? It was a real sort of, you needed someone with just a kind of, as a mate of mine who I sit with, he always has a line that says Rangers always good for 2 at the loft in second half. and the game against Cardiff and the game against Peterborough on Sunday, that wasn't the case. Where was the kind of the desire? Where was the passion? And as I say, I don't buy into all that passion nonsense, but you need a bit of heart. You need to run around a bit. Players were just strolling around thinking it was going to happen rather than trying to make things happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Kev, you were a big advocate when we did a few podcasts in January that, you know, the attack needed bolstering, and you were quite keen to see a striker come in. Obviously, it didn't happen. We know that the club were trying to sign a number 10 player. They're in for Tom Lawrence and Jamie Patterson, but they couldn't agree deals for either. Do you think that failure to get, you know, whether it be, obviously they didn't really try for a striker, you know, from what we've heard, but the failure to get in any sort of attacking boost, you know, I guess Jeff Hendrick was the most attacking player they got in, and he's not really an attacking player. Is that costing them now with the Finn squad as well, do you think?
Well, yeah, it's easy to say in hindsight because Willock's injured.
You were saying at the time though, Kev, don't put yourself down.
And I still believe it. No, I'm just saying in hindsight it's even more so. But 100%. I mean, we didn't need we didn't need a midfielder. We didn't need a centre half. We had Jordi Device. He's playing every game now and for Düsseldorf. In my opinion, we didn't need that. We needed, if you're a QPR player and you see, the only ones who might be a little bit upset is the strikers. But if you see a couple of good players coming in, attacking players, and you're going for promotion, you're thinking, hold on, these two lads could help us get promotion here. Not only do you get to play in the Premiership, obviously that's the goal. Your wages go up, everything goes up. It's like you come and help us. I just think it was such an opportunity missed. And I heard people on Twitter saying, "Oh, it's a great window. We're not upset in the changing room." And just don't get that. I don't get that. If it was up to me, I would have pushed the people behind the scenes for money to get a striker in and another attacker, 100%.
I mean, particularly what's made it worse is obviously the injury since then, isn't it? Dykes has been out for 6 or 7 games, can't remember, something like that now, and Willock's obviously going to be out for the season now, and just having that extra depth would have been ideal now, especially, wouldn't it? And it's really, I think, exposed the lack of depth in the team.
You cannot have enough strikers at your football club. I'm telling you.
You would say that though.
No, because if he's not on form, you stick him on, he goes up and scores.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And then everyone's happy.
I mean, even if they'd just brought Macaulay Bond back, you know, he's your player. He's your player. You're not buying a striker. You're having another pair of legs to come on, and he's got a bit of confidence behind him. He scored some goals at Ipswich. But it's. I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying. Again, it all comes down to what we said before about taking that risk of. You've done a lot of your budget at the start of the season, signing Austin, Johansson, and the others. What's your budget? How much of your budget have you got left? Strikers cost a lot of money. Can you afford to bring them in? Do you put yourself in a position to be ready next season, or Derby or Sheffield Wednesday by pushing the boat out too much, and then you go, oh, we're over FFP, and all the good work you've done over last year to get back to where you are is undone again. It's one of them. It's a fine back. I mean, we're not privy to what they nearly did or what they could have done, but that's sort of how I see it. I wasn't as upset about it, but in hindsight, you look at it and go, yeah, maybe they should have done. It's like, you know, the Twitter right coming out there now, you know, there's not one single person that wouldn't have agreed that they should have signed Charlie Austin in the summer. Not one single person would have said it's a bad move. Hasn't really worked out, has it? But are they not playing to Charlie Austin's strengths? Is that a factor? Do you go back to being a bit more direct? Last season, they weren't as free-flowing as they have been at times this season. They were more direct, and Austin was profiting from it.
Charlie Austin we all agree. Charlie Austin needs crosses into the box. That's when he's at his most effective. Yeah. Playing up front on his own, he's not going to link the play up. He's not going to run in behind. But if you put balls in the box, he will get on the end of one of them. But then do you take that gamble of saying, well, he ain't going to, if he don't score, he's not really going to contribute much to the team. So then do you go and play 2 up front? Now they've got an opportunity now to play 2 up front with Willock not playing, maybe. Go with 2 centre forwards. go a little bit longer, go a bit more direct, put the balls in the box. Dykes, hopefully he's coming back.
And it comes down again, I don't think they've got the pace out wide or the crossing ability of players. I mean, Willock's the best crosser of the ball in the club. You know, Albert's crossing's a bit hit and miss. You know,
I think Chair can whip a good ball in, to be fair.
Yeah, Moses can do it sometimes. But as I've said before, they haven't never really replaced Bright Samuel. That real pace, someone that can get a ball in the box, hurt the fullbacks, really put the team on the back foot. They do
lack that ability to stretch teams, don't they? The Older Badger and Odoma do it, but just like you say, the lack of pace is just it's when you actually think about it and you look at the team and the way it's playing, you think, God, they would look a lot better in this situation if they had a bit of pace coming off the bench, you know.
But you can't dispute the fact they have some rotten lack of injuries.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We can't overlook that.
I know he doesn't score goals and I know he doesn't create goals, but Senny Dieng being out's huge. I think since he's
there's a lot of muscle injuries.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a worry because sports sciences and the physios say that muscle injuries are preventable. It's the tackles are not preventable where you know what I mean, or twists, or when you know what I mean, knocks and blows. But there's been, am I right in saying there's been a hell of a lot of hamstring injuries?
But they've all happened in games, haven't they? That's the thing. So it's not like they're happening.
They might say maybe they're overtraining and they're not. Look, there's loads of things to say. Oh, are they training too much? Are they not having a few days off? And I don't know. We, as you said before, we're not privy to actually what's going on at the training ground. I'm just saying in general, there's been a lot of muscle injuries.
No, there absolutely has. And I mean, we mentioned it a couple of times already, but the news that broke this morning before we came on is that Chris Willock's going to be out for the remainder of the season. I think there's 8 games left and he's not going to be back in for them. He's got a high-grade tendon tear in his hamstring. Like I said, Kev, a lot of hamstring injuries this year. I mean, Kev, they're going to need a lot from Ilias Chair now, aren't they? If they're going to get back into those playoff spots. I mean, he is really going to have to be at the top of his game, isn't he? I think if they're going to turn it around.
Well, yeah, so I think it's a big blow, but then it's an opportunity for someone else to step up. Ilias Chair's been playing. He's come back from the AFCON and QPR's form hasn't been great since he's come back. There's no denying that. Like I just said a minute ago, is this an opportunity to go and play 2 up front? Get the ball in the box a bit earlier, a bit quicker. Use the strengths of Charlie Austin, Lyndon Dykes, Andre Gray. I mean, those 3 really should be quite fresh because they haven't played that much this season. So they've got 8 games to really have a right go. Lyndon Dykes has been in and out injured. Hopefully, he looks like he's going to be fit for the next game. Charlie Austin hasn't played much in the last 6 weeks, and Andre Gray has, but before that hasn't really played much. So them guys, they've got no burnout or anything like that. They should be raring to go. And so I think maybe this is a chance. Not every game, but there'll be games where the manager will think, well, let's play 2 up front. Let's get the ball in the box a bit earlier. I mean, the game against Fulham, he probably won't do that, and we'll probably try and pack the midfield out because Fulham were pretty good, obviously the best team in the league, but also have possession a lot in midfield, so they might have to go with an extra man in midfield. But some other games play 2 up front. Got to do something a little bit different.
I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, Ian. Do you think playoffs are still a possibility with no Chris Willock for the remainder of the season? Are they still possible?
Well, when you're 2 points off, but you can't say no, can you?
Without the best player, though, arguably.
Yeah, but you've got a week to work out. I mean, yeah, I do think it's achievable. Teams will drop points. They will. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but you can't. I mean, this time last year we were talking about they might get in the playoffs, and they were like 12 points off the playoffs. So there's always a chance. Yeah, there's always, it's 8 games to go. There's still plenty of points out there to play for. Yeah. It's going to be tough against Fulham. Very tough, but yeah, of course you got a chance. Of course you got a chance. That's all they have to believe. They have to believe they've got a chance.
Yeah.
You got a week, 10 days now to lick your wounds, work out what we're going to do from here. But there's enough good players in that squad to, not be losing at home to Peterborough.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you go back 7 days ago, they were 4th. It's kind of it's things change very quickly. So I wouldn't be writing the season off completely now.
No, I was just I was playing devil's advocate a little bit. I still think it's possible, just, even without Willock. But I mean, it doesn't take a genius to say that that it looks unlikely. Given the current run, the recent results, and the games they've got left to play. I think it's unlikely. I think, I've got to say that. But Kev, I mean, there's been complaints from a few. I'm not going to say there's a lot of people. I think on social media, conversations and topics can tend to be blown out of proportion a little bit, just the tendency of social media. But there's been a few saying, is the manager sort of positioning in question, and should they get a new manager in? I mean, that's premature, surely. That's too early for that. It's got to be, isn't it?
Look, that's extremely harsh.
Yeah, I agree.
The manager at this stage of the season, as we've just said it about 3 times, well, Ian has, we're 2 points off 6. Now, that would be a massive panic, push the button. No, I don't think so. I think that's a bit premature. He probably deserves to be manager. Whatever happens, if we don't get promoted, deserves to be manager for the start of next season, because we're 2 points off 6. And look, we've had some injury problems, like I think he said, like the goalkeeper situation, the wing backs. In December, was it, when we didn't really have any wing backs, full backs? We overcame that, and we were just off second. I think that's very premature. Look, we need to start winning some games. And I said it 4 weeks ago. I thought, we needed to nip this blip in the bud, and I thought we did. But now we haven't. We've gone back into it. So I think still all to play for. Fulham's going to be a tough game, and if I'm being honest, I'd take a point now. If you give me the chart, give me that, I'll take a point. And then all the other games are all winnable games. They are, because there's very equal in the Championship. There ain't. Fulham, in my opinion, are the most outstanding team, and they will get promoted as champions. But the rest, there ain't much between them. And on QPR's day, we are good enough to beat anyone.
Yeah.
Our day needs to be the next few games. Our day needs to be in the next 8 games, because we can't keep playing like we have done against Peterborough and expect to pick up 3 points. That ain't going to happen.
And I think, look, there have been mistakes, not getting an attacking player in January is a big one, even though they did try. I think, playing Chris Willock out of position, I didn't really understand that, and some of the changes, that he's tried to make.
What didn't you understand about it? What didn't you understand about
playing Willock out of position?
When was he played out of position?
Left wing back.
How many games?
Left wing back.
How many games?
I don't know. It was a couple of games,
minutes.
Wasn't it?
So he played 60 minutes out of position.
Yeah, I didn't get it, to be honest.
He did play as a lone striker as well, Ian.
Yeah, and a lone striker too. That I didn't get it. I think you play him as a number 10, you get him on the ball. That's his.
I didn't get that because didn't get a striker in, and then when we needed one, and then had 3 on the bench or 2 on the bench and played.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, but like you can't have it both ways. You can't sit there and go, you got to try something different, and then when you try something different, everyone goes.
I don't think you've got to try that.
So
you haven't got to move
Trying something different is maybe playing 2 up front and getting the ball in the box. For me, that's getting the ball in the box. Playing your best player in a different position negates him being the best player when he just plays in behind. So you're taking that out of the team. And playing him left wing back,
But the thing is, he played. But the left wing back, he played that was against Hull. He was QPR's most attacking player, still from left wing back. Yeah, he played there for an hour and he moved back into the middle. So this whole thing about him playing left wing back, like it was the biggest crisis and the biggest.
No, I'm not saying that.
It is. No, it is. Everyone's on Twitter going about, it's just what a disaster. Well, he played there for 60 minutes at left wing back.
Yeah,
he played there against Bristol City and they won 2-1. No one was complaining then, were they?
No,
so you can't have it both ways. It's like, and playing up front, it didn't work. He was played out of position. He shouldn't have, against Blackburn. It shouldn't have happened. It didn't work. He hasn't done it again. But people go, the manager's not got no plan B. It's that game against Blackburn, Andre Gray wasn't available to play from memory, and so he went with a fast man up front. That was his thinking behind it. And whether it's right or wrong, you can sort of go, okay, I can see why he did it.
Yeah, but Andre Gray did come on a sub.
He did, didn't he? Yeah, okay. But he just come back from injury, had he? So again, we were going to sports science. Sorry, is he fit to start? Is he fit to play? But the thing is Warburton under pressure. It's ridiculous to even suggest that he should be under pressure. He's going for a bad patch. But come on now, we were only 3 years ago. We had Matt Smith playing up front and Steve McClaren as manager. So let's sitting there moaning because they're 2 points off the playoffs, 8 games to go. It seemed a little bit rich to be, I've read some. The manager's lost the dressing room. Apparently, the players aren't playing for him. Does it ever really happen, Kev? The players down tools when they're 2 points off the playoffs?
That's the thing. 2 points off the playoffs. But that's the thing. This is what you got to look at the facts. 2 points off the playoffs, the play should be down in tools. But it's the fact of the performances and what is it, 2 wins and 10. That's what's coming into play, and a little bit of not a little bit, a lot of negativity, especially from the fans. I know I got friends QPR. Oh, rubbish! It's over. We're not going to win another game. And you're like, hold on a minute, ain't that over? But that's the sort of the attitude, and all of us, not me personally, but fans, we've got to get behind the team, especially the Fulham game. And you're right about the loft. That shouldn't be happening. When I was playing, the loft was packed.
Yeah,
and that was sort of like second half. Love playing towards the loft. That was one of that. We'll always get a goal at the loft. It was very rarely that we didn't.
You've got waves of empty seats. I mean, again, this whole shambles about naming the stand bowl stand, but the fans have got to pay for it. What planet is he on, Lee Hoos? Come on, who in their right mind's going to object to that? Just do it. Just name the stand bowl stand and move on. Having a Blue Peter appeal to kind of get the money to do it. It's kind of come on now. What's it? 10 grand or something? And people are going to go, well, the club should pay for it. What are we paying for recast for and all these things? It's a shambles. It's a shambles. And it does seem to me like that the club are doing things right, sort of on the field. They're not going through at the moment, but they're a lot better place than they were 3 years ago. But off the field, what's happening? They're wheeling out the 1982. So I'm on a soapbox in. They'll have the 1982 team that got to the cup final. You can't hear a word that's being said of who they are because the PA announcement. Several people going, "Who's that? Who's that?" I can't hear what they're saying.
I had to ask someone. I was like, "Who's that?"
The kids stand in the school end at the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm a genius.
Yeah. It used to be the seats, the kids stand was in the upper loft from memory when I was. Or the paddock, but it's just you got a CEO whose response to everything is what's in it for me. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the next week. Can't do this. He wants safe standing. Well, where's the safe standing? Not a word's been said about it since. But it's a massive issue. The lower loft, it really is. What other team is sitting there in the top 6, top 8 has got waves of empty seats behind the goal in a game they really have to win? Why? It's a problem. Yeah. No, and and I know there's some lads that a campaign has been going for a few years now to get the loft back to how it was, and they've been making this point for a long time. And the club are doing nothing about it. And something needs to be done.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap it up. We could probably go on all afternoon if we wanted to, but we better wrap it up. Let us know what you think about what we've spoken about today in the comments below, and leave a like and subscribe to the channel, please, as well, if you haven't already, because that really helps us out. And we'll be back with another video again soon.